All right, the disclaimer first. YouTube, I am not offering a medical opinion, judgment, or suggesting or recommending any kind of medical advice to anyone who's watching this video. I am only commenting on what Dr. Paul Offit admitted on video, that there are no benefits to the new booster shots. Okay, so who's Dr. Paul Offit, MD? Well, he is the director of the Vaccine Education Center and practices medicine in the infectious disease department at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And he also sits on the FDA's Vaccine and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee, known as VRBPAC. Based on that, I think we would consider him qualified to have an opinion. Several months ago, VRBPAC voted to approve a COVID vaccine novel booster formula that combined the mRNA instructions that targeted BA-4 and BA-5, the two Omicron strains which circulated last spring and early summer. Now, in case you didn't know it, and honestly, why would you unless you've been paying attention to this all along, there were no human clinical trials conducted on this latest booster. In other words, it wasn't tested on people. Again, not my opinion, YouTube. You know this to be reality. It was tested on just 8 mice. Makes sense. It's not likely they're going to tell you about any adverse reactions. Now, if that wasn't enough, there is no long-term data on what happened to the mice after injection. All the mice were challenged with Omicron and every mouse was infected, showing that the vaccine had zero protection against the virus. Now you might be wondering, why no long-term data? Well, even if it's mice, that'd still be a good idea to have, no? Well, because the mice were sacrificed shortly thereafter, having served their purpose. I'll let you draw your own conclusions as to why. Now, for those of you who who think that Dr. Offit is just another right-wing, anti-science, anti-vax zealot, you couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, you would be hard-pressed to find a bigger supporter of vaccines in general, and the COVID vaccine specifically, in American medicine than Dr. Paul Offit. He voted yes to give the COVID vaccines to all children, even babies as young as 6 months. He's a true believer, folks. Yet, when VRBPAC recently voted on the novel COVID booster, Dr. Paul Offit voted no because, YouTube in his own words, hell no wasn't a choice. At this point, those who are intellectually honest and in pursuit of the truth, no matter where it leads them, would be asking, what happened? Why the change of heart? To begin with, according to the good doctor, there were no clinical trials to show that there are any clinical benefits at all. And any honest clinician will tell you that clinical benefits must be weighed against the risks. Next, according to Offit, once you have your initial injection, you're already protected against severe disease, so there is no additional benefit to a booster. In a recent MedPage interview, Offit explained, the question is, does it matter? Because still it looks like you're protected against severe illness. So does it really matter to get that third dose? I would argue no. Now, for those of you who didn't know, the FDA doesn't really want the outside committee members to review the scientific data. They just want them to vote yes, so it looks like outside experts reviewed the data. The FDA provides hundreds of pages of material just days before the meeting, giving the members an inadequate amount of time to review the data before voting on this. Given this, I'll leave it to you to decide what the real purpose of the panel is. But in my mind, they're either there to protect the public or rubber stamp the wishes of big government and big pharma. So, all of this begs the question, why is the US government and the Canadian government advocating for 3 or more doses when there is no evidence of a benefit, according to Dr. Offit? Why are the media and the public health officials pushing so hard to continue boosters? Based on the recent revelations of the Pfizer executive who addressed the EU members, there is a lack of evidentiary science to support it. In fact, it was never tested to see if it stopped transmission in the first place. So if science doesn't matter, what does? Is it simply tyrannical compliance over health safety? Additionally, in the MedPage interview, Offit went on to say, I think this is now a 3-dose vaccine for the most part because that's the way the press and the public have handled it. It's the way public administrators have handled it. What I read into Dr. Offit's words is that the booster was created to give the public the perception that the government is doing something to protect them, a perception that corporate media and tech giants have doubled down on, which has resulted in a public expecting this protection. And neither of these parties is now willing to admit in any way, shape, or form they might have been wrong, either because of a fear of backlash or the loss of control. Given the seriousness of the matter, anyone who truly professes to care about you and your grandmother should willingly provide at least one all-cause mortality and morbidity study versus placebo covering at least the past 12 months. The study at its core should have the follow-up be independently managed by multiple organizations with no financial ties to the vaccine manufacturers in any way at all. To date, there aren't any vaccines where such a study is available. Now, is it just me, or do you think, given the magnitude of money spent over the past 2.5 years, likely well over $1 trillion worldwide, and not to mention the sheer impact on humanity, you would think that by now we should have at least one true cost-benefit study extolling the virtues of the vaccine, right? Anyway, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Please post any comments you have in the comment section. You can always follow me on my Rumble and my Locals account, and I will see you next time. And of course, please subscribe if you're not subscribed and share this channel with others.